Hello and welcome to the All Around Natural Beauty RN channel, where I'm passionate about helping victims of all ages and all genders overcome the fear of facing the abuse to become survivors. And I'm super excited that the more we face these fears to become survivors, the more power we get, the more progression we see. And I'm just super excited that 2024 is really going to be the year where truth prevails. Well, truth and honesty is prevailing because, last year, 23 was rough. It was really rough. It didn't seem like the truth stood a chance. But I'm just super excited that we stood strong and persevered, and that the truth has been remaining a wonderful thing. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm 53 years old and a proud Gen Xer. So power to the Gen Xers, because we were here before the internet and before they were able to brainwash the people with all of this baloney, dry baloney sandwich propaganda that they're putting out here on this internet with all this fake news and all of this other craziness, right? So we're the generation that was the schoolhouse rock kids, where we was off into math and science, and we did research. We had encyclopedias. We believed the dictionary. We were intact mentally. So I'm just super excited to be here tonight, because I was going to talk about something else, but then I saw the judge dismiss 6 of the counts. And so there's, a little bit more information that we got on this whole little Fonnie Willis fiasco. But anyway, a proud Gen Xer, and also the proud mother of 3 adult children. So I have contributed to society 2 XY chromosomes and 1 XX. And I'm happy to say that they are doing well and productive members of society. So over here, we don't do moments of silence. We do moments of speaking, where we speak out the names of the victims. And so far, it's been the American people who have been victimized through this whole Biden administration. And so we speak out the names of the victims, and we do speak out the names of the abusers, the Biden administration, the Democrats. That's what we do over here. We speak the truth. We ain't afraid to speak. And that's what we do over here. So I'm just super excited that it seems, but the right thing is going to happen, and the truth will be the victor in this whole thing. And I'm also, like I said in the past, that in order for us to seek and actually receive justice, that we do have to unite. We have to unite together to lift our voices in the vote, so we can vote for the things that's going to be successful for the real people, What's up, Balance? Hey. Yes. So now it's time to vote. We just had a wonderful Super Tuesday where, the right person is in the seat and ready to go to give us another chance so we can make America great again. So today we're going to talk about the breaking news. The breaking news was that Judge McAfee, and I had told y'all too. Remember, I said the reason why I felt like the judge had said he needed the 2 weeks, because they already had started the case with the Senate. The Senate, after they, heard the hearing and all of the baloney that was happening there with exposing Fannie Willis and Nathan Wade and their whole little, sneaking in the back door, all that, stuff, keeping it on the down low. But anyway, when all that stuff was happening now, and all the exposure of true facts that they were doing, like all these things was proven in the facts, that is the reason why Judge McAfee wanted these 2 weeks to see like what the Senate and what the state and all those bigger people were going to say. And so I'm not totally shocked that, he's like kind of wiping the plate clean, little by little. So I wouldn't be surprised if all the charges will be dropped in the future on Trump. So our first video, it's going to be kind of a quick little news clipping. And we're going to go through that. And then we'll probably go back and review some of the old testimony if we don't have enough talking points on all this latest news. So bear with me while we set up our first. Let me just welcome Balance here. Hey, Balance, welcome back. All right, so here we go. We're about to do the thing. Oh, let me drop this little notice here really quick. Read my disclaimer. Copyright disclaimer. Ding, ding. Under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976, allowances is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, which we're about to do, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research. And the research we do when we go back and compare notes, we connect the dots, and we see how all of this, not all of this, but most of this stuff, all these conspiracies and all this crapola and stuff, it's all orchestrated. It's all what they trying to do to us up in here. Now, let me get this off. Bye-bye. All right. So here we go. Let's get our first video here. And I didn't know, y'all, I had set out to do another video. I was going to talk about Fonnie Williams, Letitia James, and Tiffany Henyard. Yeah. So, and connect the dots on these Black women Democrats and stuff like that with all the drama and crapola that they cause. And if we have some time, we may go into a few little quick videos on them too, so I could show how they're using the Black woman to be the scapegoat for this whole thing. And, these Black people always keep voting Democrat and not realizing that you're just being used. You're being used. And when it comes time to pay up in these musical chairs, you will not have a seat. So you need to rise up, wake up, and speak up and do the right thing and vote Republican. Be for the people. Be for the people for real. Because Democrats are certainly not. All right, here we go. Voice video. Oh, that ain't well. Here we go. All right, this here is
a major blow to Fonnie Willis's case against former President Donald Trump. A Georgia judge
said major blow.
Judge is now dismissing 6 charges in her election interference indictment against the former president and his former associates. Let's go live to Jonathan Seri with more details. Jonathan.
Yeah, this ruling came down this morning. Judge Scott McAfee struck down a total of 6 counts in DA Fonnie Willis's election interference case against former president.
So it's been exactly a week since Judge said we're going to be in recess and he's going to make his decision in about 2 weeks or so. So he's like clearing off the plate and probably taking the time to clean off a little bit here, a little bit there, because it's obvious that this here is a dry bologna sandwich.
And Trump and 5 of his associates. Those associates include former New York Mayor Rudy Giuliani, John Eastman, Ray Smith, Bob Cheeley, and Mark Meadows. The quash counts have to do with charges related to solicitation of violation of oath of office. The judge writes, as written, these 6 counts contain all the essential elements of the crimes, but fail to allege sufficient detail regarding the nature of their commission. Rudy Giuliani's lawyer issued this statement, quote, the quashing of these 6 counts, 3 of which were against Mayor Giuliani, was expected. There simply was not enough detail to put the defendants on notice of what to defend against. Former President Trump's legal team said the judge made the correct legal decision. We should point out this ruling is separate from another high-profile issue the judge is still considering, a defense motion to have the DA disqualified from prosecuting the case because of Fani Willis's romantic relationship she had with Nathan Wade, one of the special prosecutors she hired to assist her with the case. A ruling on that issue is expected by the end of this week. Kaylee?
Thank you, Jonathan. So, Emily, I was reading a footnote. It said counts 2, 5, 6, 23, 28, and 38 are quashed, and it appears that it's for lack of specificity. So how monumental is this in the case?
Well, the error itself is colossal. And I just want to make sure that I send the message appropriately.
Just want to be clear. I say be clear. That's what Fani say.
Of what a rookie mistake it is. Remember, first year in law school, you learn about the standards of pleadings. You learn how important.
And this is why people have a problem with affirmative action, because like she's calling it a rookie mistake, but these people are idiots to do this without any type of proof. They just really thought that just because I say this is going to happen. And watch, pretty soon we're going to see Letitia James, her downfall is coming too, because it's a setup, y'all. It's all a setup. Watch.
Specificity is
Mark
the
my
same
word.
as well goes for warrants. The same as well goes for subpoenas, right? We sort of talk about that a lot. And the point is that it is fundamental. And Mayor Giuliani said it in his response right there. He said, because without it, the defendant doesn't know what to defend against.
Yeah.
So now we know why it's so important to have that specificity. And the fact that on a pleading, which is your initial threshold step, a district attorney failed to do so, to me, just hallmarks what a rookie she is, how sloppy this whole thing has been, how utterly sort of a sham this entire procedure has been. And now she's making a mockery of not only herself, but of the courts. And I want to point out this ancillary point as well, that the overt acts that these relate to, the reason why they can still stand in the pleadings is because there's different standards. So she needed specificity to address those 6 charges, those 6 counts that were now have been quashed. But all you need to do is reference them in the pleading for the overt acts. That's why those remain. So again, a rookie, I mean, what is this, My Cousin Vinny, where it's like, look, down here, this is where we do it. That was her own courts. And then just a quick X's and O's point. These are the options.
They weren't thinking that it was going to get to this. Because remember, when people, the whistleblower had, let me come up here real quick. When the whistleblower had brought the information to Fani about the people in there, the one dude misappropriating the funds for the grant, she fired the person, right? So they're used to doing things their own way, and they had gotten away with, using the taxpayers' money and, moving pieces around and funneling money through, friends and romances and things like that. So this is the reason why. This is why.
By the way.
Ooh.
So they reindict the individuals with more details provided, right? Essentially, like you meet the requirements, or she could appeal the ruling. And the judge has said that he would let that appeal go through because he also has the choice of waiting to the end of the trial. So that remains to be seen what happens next.
And Jonathan Turley mentioned you could have superseding indictments, but that would all mean delay. So interesting decision-making for Fani Willis here.
Well, look, Tom Dupree, former federal.
And the judge is still kind of dancing around because it's like, well, I'm doing this, but just in case things change because of that one Senate, the Democrat, if things change or if people are swaying towards this way, then he still has some leverage because there's some still cases on there that he hasn't totally flicked off. So, excuse me. So I think too, that's why he's like nickel and dime in this whole thing, slowly, doing this here, trying to, test the waters per se.
Federal prosecutor told me last hour, this is a win for Donald Trump and the defendants because 3 of those dropped charges were against Donald Trump. So what's interesting about that is he's been racking up those wins, and they may seem like they're small, but it's eating into the narrative that the left has had, that the indictments will slow him down and that he won't be able to run. Well, now they are both presumptive nominees, Biden and Trump. And that isn't working out quite the way they saw it.
I still don't see how Biden could possibly, like, can't people see his mental status? Like, you know, he truly looks like I didn't add this in here to this introduction. I have over 30 years of nursing experience, you know, and I've nursed in many different areas. I've worked in critical care, ICU, cardiac, broken bones, ortho, just all kind of things. Anyway, I would say I would not say he was alert and oriented times 4. He wouldn't get A&O times 4 with me. Maybe A&O times 2.
He does have some court dates coming up, and let's not be, you know.
That's why I feel like this whole thing is staged. Like, who put him to be the run? The Democrats couldn't come up with nothing else. That's their best.
Oh, shy about the fact that it could get bumpy for him. It could get bumpier for Biden with the border rather. So it's going to be interesting. But how this plays a role today is a victory for Trump and those defendants. It's another kind of checking the boxes down the line for those defending President Trump, because Fani Willis has turned out to be more drama outside the courtroom than in.
Mm-hmm. And we all look forward to seeing Judge McAfee's decision, which could come any time up until Friday. He said Friday's the cutoff of whether Fani Willis is disqualified. And hinging on this is the standard he uses. If he uses appearance of a conflict of interest, much easier to meet. It's what a reasonable person would perceive as a conflict, which many reasonable people would look and say there's a conflict there, or actual conflict of interest. That would need to be proven that, one, this relationship began prior to the case, and number 2, that Fani Willis directly financially benefited. So that's a much higher bar.
I've liked the judge.
And 2, what about the other charges? You know, the perjury, all those other things. Like, as far as like this inappropriate relationship, that's like should be the least of their worries. To this being disqualified, they should be worried more or less about being prosecuted themselves.
Judge so far. I mean, having watched a lot of these proceedings and this ruling, I think is right. Emily, I think is spot on. She's exactly right. I think there was a lot of political pressure to get as many indictments against Donald Trump as possible. They wanted the highest count possible. So much of this is about timing, and what this does is it delays it. They can refile it, but November is the deadline. Essentially, we're going to know who the president is or who is not, and I think there's political pressure to get this done as fast as possible, not administer justice.
When do we hit that point? Is it June?
Well, people say the election is in November. It's really not. It's the end of September, because that's when early voting starts.
Yeah,
that's true.
That's the election. The election is the end of September.
That's a big deal. You know, Tammy, and then all of this comes back to public perception, because this isn't.
It's time to encourage everybody, every American over the age, voting age, to please make sure, I've been saying this for a while now, to be registered voters and all that stuff. So, still, if you're too late for this opportunity, it's never too late. Like, there's people that's in there, way up there in age, and that's never voted. So let's not sleep on our power of voting and all that good stuff. So, so that's about all I want to show you on that quickie one there. So what I want to do now is, let me see here. There's another little quick one here from Fox News. So we're going to get both angles, because some people are still feeling that, Trump should be in jail, or, still should be in some trouble for this phone call. Here we go. I think the small sentence that they're trying, this whole case is built on about, I need, another 11,000 votes or so to try to take that out of the context that it was said in, and smear it up to make it seem like he was trying to demand some votes and stuff, when we have proof and of some real true wrongdoings and stuff. So again, these distractions here, but this is the next one I want to show you real quick. Oh, it's from CNN. Thought it was Fox. I think CNN is kind of pro-Trump. We'll see. Let's listen.
Judge in Fulton County just tossed out 6 of the 41 charges against Donald Trump and his
Breaking
co-defendants
news.
in the state's election racketeering case. This as we're standing by for a ruling on whether the DA spearheading the case will remain in charge or be thrown out because of ethics allegations. CNN's Nick Valencia is following.
He's thrown in jail.
Nick.
Dana, this is a big win for the defendants in this case, including the former president. This 41-count indictment, 6 of these charges have now been thrown out. Those charges having to deal with
41, though. I mean, it is 41. Come on. And you could only manage to toss out 6.
Violation of an oath of office by a public official. The presiding judge in this case, Scott McAfee, saying that the DA's office failed to provide enough details about what the violation would be and the alleged crime would be that these defendants were allegedly soliciting. And this is what he's saying in part of his ruling. Quote, the court's concern is less that the state has failed to allege sufficient conduct of the defendants. In fact, it is alleged in abundance. However, the lack of detail concerning an essential legal element is, in the undersigned's opinion, fatal. We should point out, though, that Judge McAfee did leave the window open for a potential appeal and said that once those details are fixed by the district attorney's office, they can re-indict. But in the immediate, this is being celebrated by Trump's attorney here in this case, Steve Sadow, saying that this is an indication that the entire indictment should be dismissed. Now, we don't want to confuse our viewers here. We are still waiting for Judge McAfee's decision as to whether he's going to remove Fani Willis from prosecuting this case. He did mention in a recent interview with WSB Radio in Atlanta that he's going to have his decision by the end of this week. It's something that he reiterated to us in a chance encounter earlier. Our supervising producer, Jason Morris, ran into Scott McAfee outside the steps of the courthouse where he did reiterate to CNN that he plans to have a decision on the timeline that he has given himself. Dana?
Okay, Nick, thanks so much for that reporting. Moments ago, we heard here in Washington from Congressman Jamie Raskin, the top Democrat on the House Oversight Committee, who says he's not concerned about the judge's partial dismissal, rather. Listen.
That to me is a reflection of the rule of law. I mean, without opining on the specific dismissal, I mean, I don't get upset when Trump's team wins a motion in civil or criminal court. That is the rule of law in the justice system.
I want to bring in former U.S. Attorney and CNN legal analyst Michael Moore. Thanks for joining me from Georgia. What's your reaction to the ruling?
Well, I'm glad to be with you. I'm not surprised to see it. I think that the use of a special demurrer, which is really just a challenge to the specificity of an indictment, is a normal defense motion that we expect to see filed. And so this simply is a chance for the court to look to see if the state provided an indictment that was perfect in form and substance. And while that sounds like an impossible task, there are some off-ramps that the state can take and some provisions that allow them to move forward. In this case,
my thing is, how come, they've had this case for a year. Why now is Judge McAfee just realizing that, not enough information has been provided? Could it possibly be because of all of this stuff that's going on now?
He simply said, look, you have laid out some allegations about soliciting public officials to violate their oath of office, but you haven't talked about their oath. You haven't talked about the specific violations and how that would impact their oath. And so I'm going to throw those counts out. The state does have the chance to come back and re-indict if they choose to. But he also, in a footnote, sort of gave a preview of what he's thinking, I think, about timing. And that is, he said, I wouldn't necessarily oppose that the case be immediately appealed to the issue because there's not precedent in this way.
I still don't feel good about him.
Cause a delay. And I think he's expecting that. So it's a win for the defense team today. Cases like this often die the death of 1,000 cuts. And I'm not suggesting that this case is dead or that this indictment is going to be dismissed in total. But it's these little right. nicks, these little chops that take the tree down. And we see that at least 6 of the counts today, while the state has a chance to clean it up, those counts are gone.
The state cleaned it up.
One of those counts, Michael, was related to that infamous phone call on January 2nd, 2021, when then President Trump called the Secretary of State in Georgia, Brad Raffensperger. Let's listen.
All I want to do is this. I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have, because we won the state.
He is making a statement, and they just took this little part of the conversation, and this is what they're indicting him on. This, when it was so obvious that he won. So obvious. And they're going to take this portion of the conversation and build a whole case of election interference when look what the Biden administration has been doing this whole time with all these indictments and all of that. That's not election interference. But this conversation here, which he's making a statement. Listen.
In Georgia, Brad Raffensperger. Let's listen.
All I want to do is this. I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have, because we won the state.
He's telling him that because we won the state. And then off of this little, look at here, this is one little sentence, one little comment here, and they have done all of this, wasted all these taxpayers' money with all these indictments and all this court and all this stuff. And a whole book was written, Find Me the Votes, from this. This is bogus.
Just to be clear, there is another charge related to that call that is still standing. But what is your read of the dismissal of one of them? Does it suggest anything about whether that call is the smoking gun that people thought it was when we heard it back?
What did you hear?
4 years ago almost?
Yeah. Well, I think the case could have been brought on that one count alone, and that is this telephone call, and we'd be well down the road already through with the trial and moving forward. But the dismissal of this count simply talks about, as it relates to the solicitation of the Secretary of State to commit a violation.
But that wasn't solicitation. If the Biden administration was supposedly counting these votes by hand and stuff, all he was doing is saying, let's count them up. I know I got 11,000 or so votes here. That's the reason why through this campaign, he's been promoting and showing, highlighting along the way how far he is ahead in this here campaign.
Of his oath of office. Well, I think what the court is looking for is the state to say the Secretary of State's oath is X. It's spelled out in the Constitution. It's spelled out in the statute. One of those provisions is that you have to support and defend the Constitution, both of the United States and the state of Georgia. And clearly, the right of people to vote and to have those votes counted is something that would be under the oath and considered under the oath of the Secretary of State. So I feel like they can clean it up if they choose to. But again, this demur, and I don't want people to think this is the end of the case. It certainly is not. There are plenty of chances for the state to come back if they want to re-indict. But this demur is a tool that defense attorneys use when you have a complex indictment, you have compound charges under one count of the indictment, complex allegations and compound allegations. And so,
I mean, the Democrats was covering up the windows and stuff, doing serious stuff. Balance says Trump knew they did something wrong. Yes, exactly. I think we all did. I remember I had on my other YouTube channel, I had did in my video, I had said that, Trump won, and then I had to walk it back, later on when they said Biden. I was totally surprised. I was like, who? What? Who voted for him? So I totally get why Trump said what he said. And then the whole thing, they've been taking bits and pieces, like I've said before. When liars lie, they take a portion of truth, Like we hear that's his voice. That's obviously Trump speaking. But what was said prior and afterwards, that little bitty small section there, and they zeroed in on that to now get people to think, oh, look what he said, right? So, yeah. Wait a minute. I want to. There is one where. Oh, I think this is it. Okay, so here's another one. Then we'll probably circle back onto some evidence crap coming out of these prosecutors and the things that they're off into, like this. Yeah.
Judge in Fulton County has just dismissed some of the charges in the Georgia election subversion case. CNN's Nick Valencia has been following all of this for us diligently. Nick, what's the latest? What are you learning?
Well, Jim, these are charges that have to deal with the violation of an oath of office. So 6 of the 41 charges in this case have been thrown out by Judge Scott McAfee. And we want to be very clear. We don't want to confuse our viewers here as we anticipate and wait for his decision as to whether or not he's going to remove Fani Willis from this case. This is not that order. What this is, though, is a victory for the defendants, including the former president. And one of those charges, he was accused of trying to get the Secretary of State to unlawfully overturn the election results here. The DA's office had said that it is a violation of the oath of office that he was soliciting from the Secretary.
So they talking about violation of oath, right? When they are guilty of violating the oath of office that they took.
Secretary of State, but ultimately the judge in this case ruling that the DA's office failed to include sufficient details that would allow these defendants to intelligently prepare for a future trial. So he's throwing them out. All of these counts have to do, as I mentioned, with the violation of an oath of office. We are still reading through this order. But as I mentioned, Jim, this is not the ultimate decision as to whether or not Fani will be removed from this case. But in the short term, it is a victory for the defense attorneys and defendants in this case. Jim.
Yeah, so Nick, just to follow on that, for right now, Fani Willis is still on the case, but a piece of this Georgia election subversion case looks like it has been dismissed. The rest of the charges are still there. So Trump and his alleged co-conspirators there in Fulton County, not out of hot water by any stretch.
No, they're not. In fact, the judge went out of his way to say this does not mean that the indictment is dismissed. He wrote that in his order just a short time ago, which was, handed out. Some of these counts, we'll just go through them. One of the counts, as I mentioned, has to do with the solicitation of an oath of office for the Secretary of State. Another one has to do with Trump and Meadows soliciting the Georgia Secretary of State to violate his oath of office on January 2nd, 2021 by requesting or importing him to unlawfully influence or certify election results. All of them, as I mentioned, Jim, have to do with the violation of the oath of office. But the judge ruling here in this case that the DA's office just really did not provide enough details about what that oath is that they were allegedly violating. So he's deciding to throw these charges out.
All
right. So how come this couldn't have been decided a year ago? Even before taking us through all of this stuff with trying to disqualify the DA, right? How come this wasn't seen immediately? This makes me feel like Judge McAfee is just doing this now because, now the Georgia DA is all in the hot seat now. So, like I said before, it's all about playing these musical chairs. So it's just trying to make sure that he got a seat to sit in when the music stops, because the music is getting ready to stop. Like what the 6 cases that he, dismissed, that nothing's changed on that. This decision could have been made months ago, over a year ago. But now it's only just being made now because, again, I believe he's trying to test the waters to see how people are feeling about this, right? So let me see if I put out a couple, dismiss a few of these, but tell them, but I'm not saying that you can't refile, right? So that way, if things look like they're going to turn the opposite direction, bam, I'm right back on board with trying to, destroy the president.
Fascinating development, Nick Valencia. Thanks for staying on top of it. As always, we appreciate it. CNN senior legal analyst Ellie Honig joins us now. Ellie, what do you make of this?
Well, Jim, this is an undeniable setback for the district attorney. Not the entire indictment, but 6 of the 40 counts have now been dismissed. And here's why. It's important to understand. Georgia state law has this sort of unusual law that says it's a crime to solicit, to ask a public official to violate his official oath of office. And as Nick just laid out, there are 6 counts in this indictment that say Donald Trump and other defendants asked various members of the Georgia Senate and the Georgia legislature and the Georgia
to do the right thing. To do the right thing.
Secretary of State, other public officials to violate their oaths to the Constitution by essentially swinging the election. But what the judge says here is, you prosecutors, you have to say what part of the Constitution. The judge says there are hundreds of provisions in the U.S. Constitution and in the Georgia state Constitution. And the purpose of an indictment is to give defendants notice so they know what they're defending against. And you can't just say, well, you tried to violate the Constitution. The judge says what you have to say is what specific provisions of the Constitution, what specific sections of the Constitution. That's not in the indictment. Therefore, the judge says those charges are legally unfounded and now they're dismissed.
And so, Ellie, I mean, for the folks at home, I mean, Nick Valencia brought up the part of this where Trump pressured the Georgia Secretary of State to sort of throw out that.
See, using these words like pressured and, this is wrong. Wrong.
Election victory for Joe Biden in the state of Georgia. Does that get lifted out of the case? Is that still a part of this case? What does that mean?
It is still part of the case, that particular act, that phone call between Donald Trump and Brad Raffensperger, where Trump asks him to just find 11,780 votes. We've all heard it many times. That is still part of the case. That phone call is still part of the case. There are other charges in the case that squarely relate to that phone call. For example, the first count in the indictment, which is the very broad racketeering count, will still include that conduct. There are other fraud counts that would still include that conduct. So I don't think this ruling changes the type of evidence that the DA is going to be able to introduce, but it does knock out some of the charges. And look, it's embarrassing for prosecutors.
And what about the prosecutors meeting with the Biden administration pre this whole, indictment and stuff? I mean,
it's a screw up by prosecutors when you bring a charge and then a judge throws it out before it even goes to trial.
Well, and that leads me to this question, Ellie, because there was so much was made of Fani Willis and her handling of this case, and the hearings that we saw play out on live television was such a spectacle. Does this bolster in the judge's mind the idea that perhaps the Fani Willis should not be handling this case, or is that a step too far?
It should not bolster the conflict of interest argument. I think these are and should be seen as 2 entirely separate questions. The question in the decision that we just got is the indictment properly constructed? Were these charges properly put before the grand jury, and are they sustainable? And the judge said, with respect to 6 of the charges in this case, again, not all of them, but just 6, no, they were not properly brought. There is an entirely separate question pending where we're waiting for a ruling any day now, where the judge has to decide whether the DA has a financial or other conflict of interest relating to her relationship with the outside person brought in to be the lead prosecutor here, Nathan Wade. Those should be completely different questions and completely different considerations by the judge.
And Ellie, I mean, the other question I had in my mind, and maybe Nick Valencia could help us on this question as well, this does not bode well for this case starting in a timely fashion. I mean, this potentially could be another delay in the case, theoretically.
Well, I guess you could look at it the other way and say, well, now we only have to deal with 34 counts instead of 40. But
that's true.
This case, yeah, I mean, look, just looking at it pragmatically, but this case is not going to get tried to verdict before the November 2024 election.
And 2, I'll have to look it up, but I'm so sorry. Y'all wasn't even able to see the whole video. I'm super sorry. I thought I was sharing my screen. Let me see here. I'm gonna go back just a little bit, and I do truly apologize. All right, so let's go back here. I don't even think he really said much of nothing in some of my commentary.
There are 6 counts in this indictment that say Donald Trump and other defendants asked various members of the Georgia Senate and the Georgia legislature and the Georgia Secretary of State, other public officials, to violate their oaths to the Constitution by essentially swinging the election. But what the judge says here is, you prosecutors, you have to say what part of the Constitution. The judge says there are hundreds of provisions in the U.S. Constitution.
And why did Judge McAfee, just now come up with this, conclusion that, it wasn't, they didn't put enough information in their indictment? Like, this was known information. He could have been said that.
And in the Georgia state constitution. And the purpose of an indictment is to give defendants notice so they know what they're defending against. And you can't just say, well, you tried to violate the Constitution. The judge says what you have to say is what specific provisions of the Constitution, what specific sections of the Constitution. That's not in the indictment. Therefore, the judge says those charges are legally unfounded and now they're dismissed.
And so, Ellie, I mean, for the folks at home, Nick Valencia brought up the part of this where Trump pressured the Georgia Secretary of State to sort of throw out that election victory for Joe Biden in the state of Georgia. Does that get lifted out of the case? Is that still a part of this case? What does that mean?
It is still part of the case, that particular act, that phone call between Donald Trump and Brad Raffensperger, where Trump asks him to just find 11,780 votes. We've all heard it many times. That is still part of the case. That phone call is still part of the case. There are other charges in the case that squarely relate to that phone call. For example, the first count in the indictment, which is the very broad racketeering count, will still include that conduct. There are other fraud counts that would still include that conduct. So I don't think this ruling changes the type of evidence that the DA is going to be able to introduce.
And my thing is this: when in history have we been able to prosecute the president? Because when during the time that he's having this conversation, he's still president. He's still the president.
But it does knock out some of the charges. And look, it's embarrassing for prosecutors. It's a screw up by prosecutors when you bring a charge and then a judge throws it out before it even goes to trial.
Well, and that leads me to this question, Ellie, because there was so much was made of Fani Willis and her handling of this case, and the hearings that we saw play out on live television was such a spectacle. Does this bolster in the judge's mind the idea that perhaps the Fani Willis should not be handling this case, or is that a step too far?
It should not bolster the conflict of interest argument. I think these are and should be seen as two entirely separate questions. The question in the decision that we just got is the indictment properly constructed? Were these charges properly put before the grand jury, and are they sustainable? And the judge said, with respect to 6 of the charges in this case, again, not all of them, but just 6, no, they were not properly brought. There is an entirely separate question pending where we're waiting for a ruling any day now, where the judge has to decide whether the DA has a financial or other conflict of interest relating to her relationship with the outside person brought in to be the lead prosecutor here, Nathan Wade. Those should be completely different questions and completely different considerations.
So it probably would look better for Georgia if they, dismiss all this stuff here because the case wasn't put together correctly, as opposed to dismissing it because of Fani's and Mr. Wade's little rendezvous
considerations by the judge.
And Ellie, I mean, the other question I had in my mind, and maybe Nick Valencia could help us on this question as well, this does not bode well for this case starting in a timely fashion. I mean, this potentially could be another delay in the case, theoretically.
Well, I guess you could look at it the other way and say, well, now we only have to deal with 34 counts instead of 40. But
that's true.
This case, yeah, I mean, look, just looking at it pragmatically, but this case is not going to get tried to verdict before the November 2024 election. There's just no way. Even the DA is currently asking for an August 2024 trial start date. It takes the DA months to even pick a jury. There's another racketeering case in Georgia, high profile, but not this high profile, that took them, I think, 8 or 9 months to pick a jury. So there's just no realistic way that this case gets tried all the way to a verdict before November.
Which is more proof that this is just election interference.
in the election.
Yeah, and I guess one thing that we need to look out for is the District Attorney Fani Willis and her reaction to all of this. I mean, everybody remembers all too well the way she responded.
Has anybody seen or heard from Fani? I wonder if she made a statement today.
That hearing about whether or not she should stay on the case, and she famously said, "I'm not the one on trial here. The former president."
I know, I want to play that too. Yes, you is, baby. You is on trial.
I mean, this is getting to be. I mean, this is going to be a very tough, fought out case when it finally gets, to court and in front of a jury.
Yeah, there have been several screw ups, frankly, by the DA throughout the history of this case. Going back to the investigative phase, the DA got herself disqualified from a small piece of the case because she created a political conflict of interest. The judge who was overseeing the grand jury removed Fani Willis from the case. We've seen Fani Willis make public statements in the church and elsewhere that have now been called into question that I think violate the ethics of prosecutorial.
So how has she been allowed to stay in this position?
Rules, and now we've seen six of the charges thrown out of the case. And unlike the conflict of interest issue, this does go to the charges against the defendant. This does go to the indictment itself, and there is still a case. The lead charge, the racketeering case, is still in place, but this is a setback.
All right, but as Nick.
All right, so that's about it on that there. So, I mean, it doesn't look like she was really good at her job in the first place. And so this is one of the reasons why people are offended at the whole affirmative action stuff. It's like people are getting these positions only because of their skin. A color of their skin, but not that they're qualified to do this, right? And somebody else said something here. I need to find the one where they highlighted the fact that this Wade guy really wasn't qualified. I think this is it. That it was this one here. Wade wasn't really qualified to do this work anyway, right? Because she just picked her boyfriend. My man could do it. All right. This one here is a little quickie. And then
charges have been left intact. So CBS News legal contributor and Loyola Law School professor Jessica Levinson's going to join us now to explain. All right. So what are we talking about here? What's been withdrawn and what does it mean?
It means that the prosecutor can still go back, can still go to the grand jury and say, we need more specificity. So the bottom line for people watching is it doesn't mean that these particular claims go away. It means that there could be a delay. I believe that the judge gave the prosecution 6 months to go back and plead with the required specificity for these particular claims, but it doesn't take 6 months. And so the prosecution, and again, the big question is, who will the prosecutor be? But the prosecution can act more quickly. So this was basically a motion to dismiss, a motion by the defendants to say, we didn't get enough notice of what we're actually being charged with. There were deficiencies in the complaint. So go ahead and throw that complaint out. What the judge said today is basically, I disagree with you. I agree. I disagree. For those portions of the complaint where I agree, the prosecution can still go back and try again.
So what happens next, Jessica?
I think what happens next is that the prosecution will go back, and we're talking about specific parts of the indictment that deal with which provisions of the Georgia Constitution are alleged to have been violated. And what the judge says here is there's a lot of provisions of the federal Constitution and the Georgia Constitution. Go ahead and give the defendants notice of exactly what we're talking about here. And I think that that's what the prosecution will do. They'll go back.
And they can't because they don't even know. They're just picking stuff out and going, okay, let's just do this, that, and the other. And,
to a grand jury and they'll say, we mean these particular provisions of the Constitution. They can then issue a superseding indictment. That just means like, this is the new amended complaint, and they can then continue to move forward.
So I can't keep track now of any of the dates of any of these things, but I presume something like this pushes whatever dates are on the calendar, pushes them back.
Well, I don't know, actually, in the sense that the next criminal trial, I think we all understand, will be that March 25th trial in New York. And that's the case that deals with the hush money payments and the business ledgers and whether or not the former president committed a felony by mischaracterizing payments to Michael Cohen in furtherance of trying to win the election. So given that I think the Georgia prosecutors can actually act with a reasonable amount of speed here, and given that that New York case, I think, is expected to take over a month, I'm actually not sure that we're really talking about a delay here. I know for all of these various parts, it's just trying to keep the jigsaw puzzle in place and figure out what does this actually push back. I think the answer is maybe nothing. The bigger delay would be if the district attorney is found to have a conflict of interest and if she's disqualified.
All right, Jessica Levinson, always great to have you breaking this down for us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Oh, all right, that's it for that one. So is one of them on here where they specifically talk about the lack of experience that Wade has for this case? No, I already did that one. All right, so I'm going to do some of the things that I was going to do before I found out about these cases being dropped here. There was a few enemies of the president. So that what I was talking about was these Black women Democrats who it seems like they have empowered to do these things, and now they're going to be the scapegoat. And it just shows how the Democrats have been using the Black people this whole time, you know. So I want y'all to wake up to recognize what's going on here. All right, so let's do this one here. Wait, I'm gonna do this one here. This is the Attorney General from New York, Tisha James. All right. Ooh, wait. This the one I want to play? No, this ain't it. All right. One moment. This ain't it. All right. Let's see what this one is. I believe this is it. If it's not, it's part of it goes along with the thing. I didn't mean to be talking here. It goes along with the
history today, voting to take away money from one of their colleagues, Commissioner Natalie Hall.
Oh,
the action comes after a sexual.
All right, so this is more from Fulton County, right? So they got wicked women in there, power hungry, using the money of the taxpayers, misappropriating these funds, right? This seems to be a thing, and it just makes us look bad, y'all, us Black women. That we just spending money, we're not good with managing it, because I'm going to show you next that mayor of Fulton County in Illinois, Tiffany Henyard, is just, you know, she is just playing with these people's money. She's writing checks and she is living large. So anyway, this here is something significant. It actually comes from the same county that Fani Willis is in charge of.
Sexual harassment lawsuit led to $1 million judgment against the county.
Wow.
Channel 2
now we paying for these for their discretions.
Aisha Fernandez is live outside the Fulton County Government Center, and Ty, the commissioners got heated today.
Linda, when certain commissioners said certain things, I forgot where I was for a moment because the language got that graphic.
Wow.
And commissioners voted to take away $200,000 from Commissioner Hall's budget. It's never been done before.
And she is the county commissioner. She fired this dude because he didn't want to do the bang bang boogie with her anymore.
And some say it sets a bad precedent.
We going to court, y'all. Watch and see. We gonna waste some more taxpayer money.
County Commissioner Marvin Arrington said his colleague's historical decision Wednesday will only cost Fulton County more money in the end. Commissioners who voted to take.
Wow, I feel sorry for the people in Fulton County. And, you know, apparently it's, you know, mostly Black people. Again, I'd be telling y'all that and it's ran by the Democrats, and the black people are the ones suffering. When are the black people going to wake up?
$200,000
$1 million because of this lady. And it be black people doing this to other black people. Look at her. She did okay. Look at her. The fellow black citizens got to pay $1 million because of her vindictive, vicious energy.
Hall's budget said they did it to help pay Hall's former staffer, Calvin Brock. A federal judge awarded Brock close to $1 million after Brock accused Commissioner Hall of firing him because he ended their sexual relationship. A majority of these commissioners think some of that money should come directly from Hall's budget.
This sets a bad precedent. This is a bad deal, and the voters will have the opportunity to hold all of us accountable.
Look at dude, he on his phone. Who is this guy? And look, the white man, he like, oh, these niggas again. Wait, I don't live in Fulton County because the white girl merchant says she don't live in Fulton County. Look, he is unmoved. This has nothing to do with me. Let these niggers waste their own money, right? Come on, y'all, wake up.
Are up for election in less than 90 days.
Wait, let me go back. Woo! Look at this dude. He is having fun. And look at her face.
From Hall's budget.
This sets a bad precedent. This is a bad deal, and the voters will have the
Oh, he got two
opportunity
phones. This one for the hoes. Let me stop.
to hold all of us accountable, or those that are up for election in less than 90 days.
Commissioner Hall will be on the ballot. She didn't say a word as her colleagues discussed what she did.
The taxpayers are footing the bill, whether it comes from the District 4 budget or whether it comes from the risk fund or whether it comes from any other line item.
I think a normal employee, we would have fired for sure. They would have lost their job.
But because she's a black woman in a high position, people are, people scared to fire. They're scared. Just because you're black doesn't mean that you get to keep the job, or that doesn't mean that you should get the job. It should go to the most qualified person. And when you are no longer the most qualified person, you should not be able to keep the job. When you're doing corrupt, inappropriate stuff, you should not be able to keep the job and cost the regular taxpayers more money.
Now, it's important to mention that elected officials cannot fire other elected officials, and commissioners today certainly sounded like they were inviting voters to have the final say on this because voters can hire and fire. We're live outside.
It did sound like that, but I'm going to show y'all something from this little Tiffany Henyard. They've been trying to get her out too, so it doesn't appear that voters have too much power. I think it's, they tell you that, but for real, is there any power? Right, this is what I want y'all to see here. Oh my goodness. It wasn't you. It was wasn't you. Yeah, it'll be this one. Okay, so here's our next one. This is the one I actually wanted to show from the Leticia, but just boom, another random one. Here's another black woman doing the same thing. A Democrat too. Damn, Democrat. All right. And this one is about the AG.
Fire department is hunting down firefighters and other staff who booed.
Wrong order. Let me change it up. All right, so I got to show you this other one first, because then this one here will make sense. All right, here we go. All right, so this AG actually won a case against Donald Trump where she's forcing him to pay over $400 million for a victimless crime, doing business, how businessmen have been doing business in this country since business deals have been made.
New York Attorney General Letitia James getting booed today in New York City. Her lawsuit led to former President Trump's fine of more than well over $350 million at this point in the civil fraud trial. He is appealing, and he says he did nothing wrong. Watch what happened when James spoke at the fire department promotion ceremony today at a church in Brooklyn.
Oh, come on. We're in a house of God. First, simmer down. I want to thank Commissioner Kavanaugh and Chief Hodgins for that recognition.
Oh, you know who's going to love that? FDNY Chief of Department John Hodgins telling Fox, quote, today's ceremony was about one thing, the accomplishment of the members being promoted. The members whose behavior, distracted from that celebration were an embarrassment and not befitting of the world's best fire department. And indeed, they are. And we congratulate all of those who got promoted today. And we thank them for the hard work they do every day in New York City.
Hey, Sean Hannity here.
Okay, so she gets booed, right? Now, to go back to how they have been suppressing our freedom of speech. Fast forward after she gets booed, now she's going to attack these people. She wants blood now. Listen to this. Now they booed her because everybody know that was some baloney what she did there. And that was her own, personal attack, witch hunt against the president. All right, so here, now listen to this.
Boss of the New York Fire Department is hunting down firefighters and other staffers who booed Attorney General and Trump prosecutor Letitia James during a promotion ceremony last week. They were also chanting Trump's name as she was speaking. Have a listen.
Oh, come on. We're in a house of God. First, simmer down. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for getting it out of your system. I want to thank Commissioner Kavanaugh and Chief Hodgins for that recognition.
And they said, Trump, Trump, Trump.
An internal memo seen by the New York Post has urged firefighters to keep their politics at home and has slammed them for being grossly inappropriate. But this woman is making a mockery of the justice system, Army. Why would they think she'd hear anything other than boos from firefighters? And fancy telling them to simmer down.
Yeah.
Oh, she's so gross. I mean, this is Letitia James. If you watched her when she was talking about the indictment of Trump and she really, look, she ran on one issue. That one issue was, I'm going to put Trump in jail. What does she expect in front of a bunch of firefighters, testosterone-filled firefighters, first responders? And by the way, she's going to speak so disrespectfully to them? I mean, they're the ones who put in their lives.
Because she don't have respect for the people. She feels emboldened to do this.
On the line to save New Yorkers every single day. I think this simmer down.
Now they want these people to be punished for booing. Come on. Right? I don't have a right to that. Like, if you don't agree with what I'm saying or what I want done, then you're going to be out of here. This is the same stuff that Fonnie Willis was doing. And they firing these people for, being themselves, for speaking out, for being honest and telling the truth. For being honest and telling the truth. All right, so now I want to show y'all this other black chick here, the Dolton mayor. She's been spending the money, and it's a little town, like 20,000 people, and she's got them. When she became the mayor, they had a surplus, and now they're in like a $7 million deficit. And this lady is cray for real. She is just playing with their checkbook and telling them to go suck an egg. Share this here. So now they got the FBI investigating her. So that all that to say is that I don't think we should fret because, like I said before, it's been slow time coming, but all these people are going to be facing the music because this year's the year for the truth to prevail, for the truth to come out, and for these crooks and criminals that have been getting over on the backs of people to, pay up. And I had showed y'all that one short of that other mayor who got 6 years in prison for, doing this very thing here.
AGN investigates a town in turmoil. A South Suburban mayor accused of using police to target her political opponents.
Investigative reporter Ben Bradley has the story.
For decades, the Shaw brothers ran politics in and around South Suburban Dalton. Their antics were legendary, but now there's a new leader in town. She calls herself the people's super mayor, but that's not how some of the people would characterize her leadership.
Show me 23.
The night of June 10th, police arrived at this truck yard in Dalton, owned by Lawrence Gardner.
How are you? I don't know. I was doing good till you got here.
The reason police responded depends on who you ask. In this report, officers said it was for an ordinance violation for hosting a group of bikers at his business without a license. But Gardner has a different take.
Okay. It's what it is. So here we go.
He says he's been repeatedly harassed for not supporting Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard.
We taking care of all the business, right? All the business.
You can't stop me from closing my gate. Last time I'm gonna say it, sir. Okay. Please stop. I'm not.
Wow.
The standoff that night ended with Gardner in handcuffs.
Wow.
I'm tired of them. They've been harassing me for months and months and months. Have a seat, folks, sir.
And charged with misdemeanor obstructing an officer.
Wow.
With the gate. It's all on body cam. No big deal.
The charge eventually dropped. Case closed,
Wow.
right? Not quite. Gardner claims the harassment continues.
I'm suffering. They destroyed my trucking company. They shut my store down.
And he's not alone. Others in town are sharing similar stories of alleged retaliation for not supporting this suburban mayor.
It's a regular occurrence. She uses the police force to intimidate residents.
The Dalton Park District's director said in her case, the mayor objected to a car show on park property and shut down the event.
Wow. It felt like an abuse of power. She used her entire police force to come in and prevent something from happening because things didn't go her way, really.
Wow.
Some businesses.
Now, the connection here is to see that these are Black people in charge abusing other Black people. Yet, these Black Democrats be the first one to call racism. They all call out racism. And these Black women will combine racism with I'm a Black woman and throw that in there. This is Black people abusing Black people. Not white. Not white. These are Black people abusing Black people. Where's the racism, Black people?
Even village employees are now suing Dalton.
I filed the lawsuit because I am a victim of retaliation.
Wow, she looks Black to me.
Eris Montgomery is Dalton's deputy village clerk. In her complaint filed last May in federal court, she claims the board increased her pay to $60,000, but the mayor ordered not to implement the raise because the clerk didn't support Henyard politically.
People are walking on eggshells, so to speak. They're afraid to have an opinion about anything or to fulfill their duties.
Since taking office in 2021, Henyard has repeatedly clashed with residents and fellow elected officials, even locking trustees out of Village Hall amid a dispute.
This is the second time she did this.
That was 2021. 2 years later, dysfunction is still the definition of a Dalton Village board meeting.
You the ones that's costing the village money.
I don't have that call.
All right.
Okay. What was she supposed to do? You wanted her to expound? Don't drag out the meeting. I made a motion.
It took 30 minutes of yelling just to agree on the
This makes us look bad. I'm sorry.
order of the night's agenda. Some residents say they are fed up.
Until this administration starts respecting us as citizens, I'll be damned if I'm going to respect them as an administration.
3.5 hours later,
But that's what you get when you vote for the Democrats. These are the puppets. They put them in charge. They put them in charge. They're your overseers, okay?
we had a quick chance to chat with the mayor.
At what point is this dysfunction a reflection on your leadership?
When I replace my board.
Are you punishing your political opponents?
No, not at all. I'm a fear God person, God-fearing person, that I don't touch stuff like that.
Can't even say
I
it
want
right.
people to know that I'm caring. I love what I do. I stay in the fire for them, and I bring products and produce things here in our community for them.
Her team said the mayor would not discuss any lawsuits or specific allegations of political targeting.
Wow.
From my perspective, they're sort of kicking these cans down the road and not doing much to defend them.
Well, there you are. Attorney Patrick Walsh represents Dalton's deputy clerk and another village employee, both of whom are suing the suburb, alleging they were victims of political retaliation.
We've had cases in other municipalities. It certainly happens, but not on this scale. They don't even take steps to try to hide it.
Black people do it big. We ain't playing.
Gardner says he's also considering
Say it loud. I'm a crook and I'm proud.
a lawsuit alleging the village illegally shut down his candy store.
Wow.
I lost it all.
And his trucking business.
There's no freight. I just have a couple of friends that don't have anywhere to put their belongings. So I put the stuff in here to collect a couple of dollars to pay the rent.
Back in June, after Dalton had shut him down, Gardner's security cameras captured two people he insists were Mayor Henyard's henchmen.
Here it is. Here's the lock they cut.
The night of his arrest, Gardner asked if cops were the ones who cut his lock.
You know you shouldn't have cut that lock off and went in my property.
So
You shouldn't have done that.
again, I'm gonna say this and then I'm gonna let it go. Nobody cut a lock off your property.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
But Gardner's not giving up
Wow.
or giving in.
And then when I call and try to find out, it's always, you have to talk to the mayor. You got to talk to the mayor. Well, the mayor never answered the phone. Nobody else can say anything.
Our story isn't over. One of the many things trustees and the mayor can't agree on is how tax dollars are being spent. Digging through the records, we found trips to Las Vegas, thousands spent on meals.
Woo. You black people, we love to travel. Let the taxpayers pay for it. Wow. Okay. So here we go. Look at there. It's like a pattern. It's a pattern here. All right. Here's another little quickie. This Tiffany chick she is off the chain. I mean, millions. They say like 7 million deficit for this little bitty. It's not even considered a town. It's called a village because not enough people to be a city or a town. All right. And they haven't been able to vote her out because this is ridiculous how she is just abusing these people like this.
Well, good morning. Trustees last night at an emergency board meeting voted unanimously to call for this investigation. There were some noticeable absences at last night's meeting, including the mayor and two of her allies.
Wow.
We are here to save Dalton.
During a boisterous emergency meeting, Dalton Board of Trustee members made several allegations of misappropriation of taxpayer money and political corruption conducted by Mayor Tiffany Henyard, who was a no-show at the meeting.
A grown-up would just resign and leave, but we know she's not going to do that. So definitely we're going to go to the next step further.
That next step was demanding all village financial records be made public by March 7th. And calling on investigators at all levels of government to look into the mayor and her administration.
There are many things that have not surfaced and the public doesn't know yet. And if you think you're in shock now, just hold on.
Trustees say they have evidence to back up allegations of misusing village funds, its credit cards, issuing checks without needed signatures, and hiring employees.
Sounds like what Fonnie was doing, right? They said that she didn't get Wade's checks approved through anybody. She was the final say on this whole thing.
Employees and vendors without going to the board for their advice and consent. But that's not all.
Has used police personnel for her own personal security detail, which has caused hundreds of thousands of dollars of overtime, or millions within the police department.
The mayor has been the subject of WGN Investigates stories, which looked into her charity, use of taxpayer money as Thornton Township's supervisor, as well as a lavish trip to Las Vegas. She had a hard time answering straightforward questions from WGN's Ben Bradley about first-class tickets and pricey dinners.
You didn't go to Las Vegas? What is that? You don't know if you were in Las Vegas?
Of course I do.
Were you?
It's not paid by them.
Did you fly first class to Las Vegas?
Any other questions?
The state attorney general's office is already looking into it.
She hardcore.
Did you fly first class to Las Vegas?
Any other questions?
The state attorney general's office is already looking into her charity, and we've learned federal investigators are also asking questions. In a statement, the village administrator levied his own allegations of misusing funds by some trustees and called last night a circus, with a few trustees in the village spreading lies. Either way, the people's choice for mayor is going to have to answer to the people at some point.
Someone has to come and save us. This woman is going to bankrupt our town.
Wake up, people.
Now, one trustee tells us that the mayor is at least partially to blame for the village being $7 million in debt. We did try and find the mayor here this morning. We went by an address that we had for her. No one was home. We also tried a few numbers we had for the mayor, but were unsuccessful in getting a comment. We're live in Dalton. I'm Eric Rung, WGN News.
Wow. All right. So let me see who the other person is. But this lady, I mean, like, there's tons and tons of video. I mean, I feel sorry for those, for the residents there, because, she's using the police people to, do drive-bys and stuff. This lady, she is like really, certifiable. Like, I'm like, how did you? And two, she had a criminal past where she was arrested. There's a mugshot of her floating out on the internet for stealing, for breaking into cars, I believe. How did you get to become a mayor? And the same with Fannie. I remember, I want to say it was in the year 2000 or so. I was lived in Los Angeles, and I was applying to be a Los Angeles the police department. And the background checks that they do, you can't even, your credit has to be good. How did Fonnie get to be the district attorney having a tax lien? Like, you're supposed to be in great standing. I mean, they look through all this stuff. How did you get into this? How did you get in with your past? Like, how did she get to become mayor, this Tiffany lady, and you got a mugshot? Like, you're not a law-abiding citizen. How can you be, the district attorney and you owe the government and you're doing weird things with money? Like, answer me that, please. Please, 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 please. All right, so I guess I kind of did do some of the things that I wanted to talk about on these three ladies here. Let me see, I got something else on this here funny person. All right, so here's a quick video of some more people that actually, let's see, what is it? In the original questioning that we had been going over, that we didn't talk about, this Austin Dabney person. I didn't get a chance to see his video or find out who he was and what role did he play in this whole thing. All right, let me see what this is. No, that ain't it. Definitely not. Ooh, it's getting hot in here. All right, so here we go. This is who I want to say. Check out here. See what this guy's about. I've never heard his testimony. He was probably speaking in the beginning, and see what he's got to say about the character of these here people.
Dabney, that's AUSTINDABNEY.
Good afternoon, Mr. Dabney.
Good afternoon.
I want to direct your attention. Well, first of all, how are you employed?
I am employed right now. I have my own firm.
You're a lawyer and you've got your own law firm?
That's correct.
All right. I want to direct your attention to 2000 and 2021, 2022. What was your employment at that time?
Yes, I was employed with Wade Bradley Campbell firm.
And what that's Nathan Wade, Terrence Bradley, and Chris Campbell?
That's correct.
All right. And what did you do in that firm?
I was an associate attorney.
All right. And don't need a whole lot of detail, but generally speaking, who in the firm did you work for? What kind of matters did you handle?
Well, I believe I worked for all of them equally. They would all give me tasks to do, which court dates to go to, what cases to work on.
I want to direct now your attention, Mr. Dabney, to a particular instance. Did you have occasion at any time to go to a club with Mr. Bradley?
Could you repeat the question?
Yeah. Did you have any occasion to go to a club, a nightclub, or a bar situation with Mr. Bradley?
Yes, I have.
More than one time?
More than one time, yes.
The time that I'm going to direct your attention to, we spoke about a little earlier today. Do you recall any instance, Mr. Dabney, where Mr. Bradley, where you witnessed Mr. Bradley sexually assaulting him?
Oh. Okay, yeah. So there was some talk about the Bradley guy, was released from the firm for sexual misconduct. Okay, so that must be what this guy about to talk about. All right.
Sure. Impeachment is improper. All right. How is this not extrinsic evidence of the collateral matter, Ms. Cross?
Maybe ask a better question. My question will be if this witness witnessed Mr. Bradley sexually assaulting another employee of the firm.
Same subject matter. How is that not issue on a collateral matter for impeachment?
I think it's not a collateral matter, and the witness denied it. I think it is highly relevant. I think that it goes to the witness's credibility and his denial here this afternoon that he committed the assault as a witness. I will proffer to the court.
Okay, so they were probably trying to discredit the Bradley guy because what he was going to expose Wade and Willis. So that's why they got this guy here to try to show that Bradley was already, he's already kind of a bad guy. So we shouldn't believe him what he said.
Who has firsthand knowledge and witnessed the event. And so I think that's highly relevant to both Mr. Bradley's credibility and to the proceedings that we had in the last 2 days.
Oh, yeah.
Still object, Your Honor. I understand, Mr. In the attempt to impeach Mr. Bradley, they have to live with whatever answer he gave. They can't have a sub-trial and with the extrinsic evidence of misconduct here. So we would object. 608. Right? 24-6-608. Ms. Cross, under 608, I don't see how this isn't well beyond the core facts at issue. I think you confronted with him.
think he answered them this. He saw fit, an argument could be made as a result to go down the whole mini trial on whether he did or did not do this and circumstances of his leaving the firm. I don't see how that gets past 608.
I understand the ruling, Your Honor. Disagree and defer my objection. I put a proffer on the record, not a detailed one, but that
I think you already have.
I'd like to, with the court's permission, I'd like to make it clear that the sexual assault I'm referring to was the same employee that I asked Mr. Bradley about. I just wanted that to be clear in the record.
Okay. All right. Understood.
Wow.
Anything else that is relevant to this witness?
Given the court's ruling, no.
All right. Questions from defense counsel?
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
When did you start working at the law firm?
I believe I started working, to my recollection, March 2021.
Okay. And at that time, do I understand that there was what I would call a three-way partnership or sharing arrangement at the law firm?
I'm not aware of any sharing arrangements that they had, but there was the Wade, Bradley, and Campbell law firm.
Okay. And did you work in the law firm office on a daily basis?
I did.
And during the time period you were there for the remainder of 2001? That is, you worked from March of 2001 at least to the end of 2001, correct?
21. I didn't even have a bar license in 2001.
I'm sorry, 2021.
Okay.
A little late. From March of 2021
He
to the
probably
end
was
of
still a
2021,
baby.
correct?
That's correct.
Okay. During the time period that you were working at the law firm, did you see Fonnie Willis?
During my time, because you were
in that time period between March of 2021 and November 1st of 2021, did you see Miss Willis?
I may have recalled one instance where I saw her passing.
And when you saw her, was she at the law firm?
That would be correct.
And do you know who she went to visit?
I do not know.
You didn't see her go to Mr. Wade's office?
I do not recall.
Did you ever talk to Mr. Wade about Fonnie Willis?
Could you repeat your question?
Did you ever talk to Mr. Wade about Fonnie Willis during the time period of March of 2021 to November 1st of 2021?
No.
Did you know they were dating?
No, I did not.
Did you see anything did you ever socialize with Mr. Wade?
As far as being an employee, yes.
Well, I don't know what that means exactly, but did you ever go out to eat with Mr. Wade?
On occasion, he would take the office out to lunch.
Beyond that, did you ever go to a nightclub or drinking or any of that with him?
No, I did not.
Okay, so whatever relationship Mr. Wade had with Miss Willis during this time period, you don't have personal knowledge, correct?
I do not have any personal knowledge.
Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
Any other questions from defense counsel? Mr. Stockton.
When you started in March of 21, was that just you gave them a resume and started working there?
I don't understand your question.
When you started working there, is it a situation where your first day on the job was the first day you may have met him or shortly before you met him?
Again, I don't understand what you're asking.
Let me back up. Did you know Mr. Wade or any of his partners prior to March of 21?
Yes, I did.
How did you know them?
In a professional capacity. I used to be a community supervision officer with the Georgia Department of Community Supervision.
And where would that have been out of Fulton County?
Cobb County.
How long did you know Mr. Wade prior to that?
I didn't see Mr. Wade in my professional capacity. I thought you were asking about all partners, but if you're only asking about Mr. Wade, if you could please clarify.
Okay, so you went to work for Mr. Wade in March of 21, correct?
I went to work for the Wade Bradley Campbell firm.
Okay. Prior to that, how long did you know Mr. Wade?
I did not know Mr. Wade prior to that.
At all?
Well, he's not an interesting witness. He didn't really have. They probably was fishing and to see who this guy was, if he had any dirt on them. but obviously not. All right. So anyway, this was kind of a impromptu when I saw the that they had dropped some of the charges. 6 of the charges being dropped on there. So let's see. I did Tiffany, Letitia, and nothing new on Fonnie. So hopefully the judge, McAfee, will have something to say at the end of the week on Friday, and then Friday night, it'll be late Friday night because I'm going to work. We'll go over it. So anyway, thank y'all so much for coming out. Please like and subscribe, and thank all the new people that have been watching the replays and stuff like that. So see y'all soon. Peace and love, and let's make America great. Oh, before I leave, I need to play something to promote our future president, Donald Trump. Let me just play one quick little Trump something. Just because I have been a Trump supporter since the beginning, right? I voted for him both times. That's why I know that they actually cheated him out of the election here. Let's see here. I have a little quickie Trump something. Is it? All right. I guess I kind of did play something at the beginning of this here. Yeah, because it started off on the Trump thing. So I guess I don't have to end on this. I'm just going to end now. Love y'all. See y'all in the next video. Thank you. Peace and love.